Welcome to our lovely future humans, to the 5D collective, and to those who are ready for our full moon messages. We're going to start with a quote from Sadhguru. What you do is not the point. It is the level of involvement within you that transforms you. Now, the level of involvement within you is why you are living a transformative life, because you are observing, witnessing, narrating yourself, and therefore you have emotional, mental intelligence habits. So you know that every 24 hours your actions are important. What you think, what you drink, what you eat, what you sleep, all of it. And so the bright sides of neuroplasticity, that's who's going to be here. That's who's our 5D collective. We like to, I do, make fun of the 4D, 3D who allow themselves to continue with stories that are beautiful, which we might get to later on, but they are not needed because we don't get emptied in the way of those who do not know how to self-regulate. So when people are in the absence of good self-regulation skills, they will have a window of tolerance that they weaken with their bad habits. The drinking, the drugging, the inner-outer critic, the fucking, potentially thinking that anything that is physical in a way of unhealthily. So let me pause to give you the explanation. The words that come out of my mouth aren't what matter. That's why words to me matter not. They matter because I need to explain things, but they're not powerful. What is powerful is when I meet those who are transformative, because you're your own inner masters. So for our 8th and 9th chakra, we're going to have a patron membership content for those who want to just do the exercises on their own. But then we're going to also have, instead, a workshop for those who would rather perform that which is personal and spiritual growth practices together. So your 8th chakra, that which is your awareness, and the 9th chakra, that which is your inner master, thanks to compassion and appreciation. And so you love to be yourself. That's the smart way. Stable, because you have bilateral vertical overall integration. All your child parts are asleep. You're reparented. Mature, because that's exactly why we're emotionally intelligent. So when we're faced with the 3D, 4D, adaptability, we're present. So we're curious, open, accepting, and loving. We recalibrate. That's why we're going to be able to relate with rationale, and even if it's a flat earther, have a good time, and then teachable. Okay, so we maintain the humility to the best of our ability, but like a Neil deGrasse can talk down about, not me, Maria, but the pseudoscience stuff, I could sound like somebody who's going to be talking down, although I don't mean to do it, but I could sound like that to the ones who are the weak ones. They don't forgive, they have low frequency, they continue to think of monsters exist, they continue to shame people, they continue to believe, shame bad grown-ups who don't know that God is not going to pick and choose, that all of us are chosen. He's going to encourage, comfort, strengthen, and challenge, and that books from the medieval times are not what we need to teach children how to have morality and integrity. So polyamory and monoamory, those two words are words indicating what a person who loves will be using. Anyone who's thinking society needs to pick one or the other is a teenager version of themselves, because they didn't understand that we don't have to pick and choose, because nobody loses anything. If some people are in a polyamory relationship, there's polyfidelity vessels. If you're in a monoamory relationship, because you don't want to be polyamory, and you're going to continue to talk about someone who cheated on you, and how are you going to handle that grief and that it hits you, the whammy. Okay, so people who are instead grown-ups, whether in academia or not, and they don't understand how two sides of the brain work, because that's exactly the only reason why they would think that we have to pick and choose. So academics that are actual academics enjoy chit-chatting about those things that are called society evolves. And so we have a good time with it. Then we have the pseudo-intellectuals, and those are the ones who I actually find humorous beyond a shadow of a doubt. And that's because, well, I'm going to leave it for another time. So how to be emotionally intelligent, we looked at that. You be yourself the smart way, so stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable. You are a mental, emotional, physical master of you. So being yourself. Every 24 hours, you are getting to choose how to use neuroplasticity the bright way. Inner and outer growth dialogues. Inner and outer expansion, because your heart stays open even when you're sad. Your gut stays open and on even when you're angry. Your cerebral fear. Okay, so we have healthy fear, healthy sadness, healthy anger, healthy disgust, healthy surprise, healthy happiness. That's why we are not concerned with that which is why your CPTSD is not getting better. A really great video by Patrick Tiahan where he explains to people who are still overcoming CPTSD, number one, the disturbances in self-organization that is present, and so the stress that relationships can cause, the unhealthy handling of emotions and affect because there's small window tolerance, the not owning of the sense of self. So people who could learn to love themselves first can use Patrick Tiahan. Otherwise, it's a confusing, shaming letdown. And so when you see 3D, 4D, you don't actually shame them because that's not in any way, shape, or form the role of a person. God encourages, strengthens, and then he comforts. And if someone chooses to stay within the shame cycle and the blame and all the low frequency stuff, that's where our 3D, 4D brothers and sisters are at. So they don't know what is within them. Therefore, they're not transformed. They also won't know what mental or emotional intelligence are. But again, we're not going to make people access that which is awareness. And so when you do mindful mindsight with mindset here at HP with me, the mindsight lens is Dr. Daniel Siegel's. Sifting sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. And he has a lovely wheel of awareness. Mindfulness, as you know, these are all practices. Actually, let me use Tara Brock has a nice quote that she shared today. Pausing disrupts our habitual behaviors so that we may open to the possibility of new and creative ways of responding to our wants and fears. Okay, so as you are practiced in this is what makes our full moon and all our ascension energies so amazing. So whenever I've been ascending since I began, light body, rainbow body, my life has gotten more and more deeply satisfying. Those who think that our twin flames or our ascending ego, death, dark night of the soul is dreadful, they don't know how to do open-ended inquiry because they don't know how to think and feel and then hug themselves. So they don't own their self, which is where it's very clear they don't own self-regulation. Because if they did, then they'd be expanding the window tolerance. Once you've expanded to a window welcome, that's why with my panic attacks, I didn't go offline. I've never been offline in a way of being like clinically dissociated. Okay, so once you're an inner master again, that's why we are connecting together. Our new codes for the 9th chakra, they come from the inner master of compassion and appreciation of the understanding of all levels of conscience. So you are of the understanding of all levels of conscience. This is my channel guidance, food for thought for the 5D collective. We've read it before, but I'm reading it again. That the human being can have access to once they have become a master of the full understanding of its nature, your human nature, and overcome the inner darkness. And that's where our human secondary consciousness comes into the place. So you've overcome the mystery of the unknown, of the unfathomable, of anything that it's like the chicken and the egg. You don't care which one came first. You have fun with it. That's the curiosity. You're not trying to prove anything. That's why you're grounded in reality, like Sam Harris points out. Any of your beliefs, any of your thoughts, they can be falsifiable. You didn't lose your identity because your identity is your name. And all words mean nothing more than words. So they're not actually things that you are triggered by. And if you are using your emotional mental intelligence. That's why we, again, do the practices we do to spot it and say, that was interesting. So the connectivity here at HP is with those who inspire human potential. We know God's got our back, so does universe and cosmic karmic balancing always at play. So we give with grace and generosity, which means that we accept, love, and welcome all. Then we know that we're choice points for each other. So no one is actually impeded in aligning with love, in aligning with God's source, in applying the spiritual essence of love, in activating in God's will with Mother Earth's 5th dimension. Every single person can do this as they decide, instead of escaping the darkness through those unhealthy self-soothing mechanisms, reducing the window of tolerance, okay, and then becoming what I've seen the magical thinkers who don't go to Patrick Tiahan, they choose to explore those depths in a safe haven, secure-based body. Okay, so you have to be able to be safe to be yourself inside your own self. That means you make fun of yourself, but it also means you're objective about your bad habits, your good habits. Okay, we all have vices. I do. Moderate with the wine, moderate with the cigars, good diet. I am going to do a 5D Mystics journal later. Okay, so through the process of understanding and integration, you are consistently, therefore, deepening that which is the connection with yourself and then with others. And when you encounter those who do not have that capacity because of their refusal to forgive themselves and have self-compassion, their refusal to learn how to harness their self-regulation skills, you're not going to call them names. They're not monsters. These are people who were shamed and were made to feel defective on the inside. And they, in fact, are the adaptive child part that I don't give any kind of weight. So, like my facade friend who never became his true self, I had to accept that my facade friend gave up on his dreams because he gave up on himself. I'm going to leave that for after for our stories. Okay, so again, every 24 hours counts. You pause those bad habits. You pause your mind to think with compassion. You pause your body to breathe. You want to achieve, and that's why it's easy, safe haven, secure base. Once you're an emotionally intelligent, you're also mentally intelligent. So now we have our ego and our self that work together, and you're self-led. That's our 5D collective. So we know that our heart coherence has been on for a while now because we have a bunch of beautiful researchers and scientists who have been knowing and studying all about the restored embodiment and the good side of neuroplasticity, and they're now finally joining us. And so our societal culture can move forward with science and spirituality hand in hand, except for the ignorant ones who the only manipulative way they use their words are by saying yoga brings demons out of you, Reiki is devil's energy, all those people, it's science, how dare they say that Adam and Eve is not the real story, Darwin is fake. And you think, okay, I had good Christian Catholic upbringing. So when I meet buffoons that are getting together, that are believing the other buffoons, where's Sadhguru? Right here. If you operate out of the straitjacket of logic, which is non-bilaterally integrated brain people, they're the same ones who think your brain can fall out of your asshole because they don't appreciate Consilient's approach. We don't give a shit about those who are buffoons because my logic actually will take a winning seat at the table at one point, shape, or form alongside the other smart, logical people who use two sides of the brain. It isn't because those who have only one side working are not going to contribute. No, we all contribute. They're cut off from Purusha, pure consciousness, Prakriti, pure energy. So this is where there's, a land of Maya or something like that. So when you're cut off from pure consciousness, which is also Shiva, here's our masculine element, and here's where it's a thoughts. With the feelings, though, you're only an empowered masculine if you're using your prefrontal. Otherwise, you're only using this straitjacket of left and right can't both exist together. It's like if you say yoga and then you say religion, no, they have to. The non-bilaterally integrated brain person is the person who gets all picky with words in a way that makes me think of a stick up their ass. They, on the other hand, think of us as buffoons, and they will think that it is our fault that we have flat earthers, because those are comments that come from people that think that because I can see that 2 or 3 or 4 sides, and then there's some stuff that isn't in there, that's a person who doesn't accept the unknown in a way of having ease. Getting rigid means you are getting defensive, which means now I'm listening to your stereotypes, generalizations, and what your adaptive child part, a child's version of what a grown-up coulda, shoulda, woulda done with your limited consciousness. You're nothing more than a limited consciousness in that minute. You're going to start making no sense whatsoever if I interrupt you. If I let you talk, then you get it off your chest. I will have gained some knowledge because you did come through with some logic, and then as an empowered feminine always does, we go and hang out with other empowered feminines, because that's how integrated brain people work. It's like, hey, Sam Harris, so listen, I'm grounded in reality. This is what I found out over here. It's what successful entrepreneurs, academics, and all, the success is that we know that no person out there who wants to talk down to any other person knows more or less. Okay, so we'll feel not ridiculed. That's why, again, talking down to me, I use the word very lightly. Anybody who still has a chip on their shoulder, I'm 45.0 version of Maria. I don't have chips on my shoulder. The last time I ever said it's personal was when someone, it's not personal, Maria. And actually, I didn't take it personally. I said, oh, wait, if I keep my heart open, it's not personal. You're right. You're so right. It's not personal. But I knew what they were doing, and I had played the same little sword game with the left. I just said, this sounds shitty. It's a coward's game. I'd rather tell you what I think, and that's it, because why not? We're different. Doesn't mean that we have to be the same. And I wasn't trying to offend you, but did you consider what you're doing? No, you didn't. So when someone wants to do the whole offending, not offending, I just feel like I'm in the presence of a child at that point. So Those who are comfortable with mediocrity, thank you, Dan Martell. It's dangerous. No, it's not. The ones who are comfortable with it, they want to stay in mediocrity. We all choose convenience over everything. I choose what works for Maria's left and right. You do too. Difference is I'm self-led. So when you meet the lack of emotional intelligence, it's a lack of mental intelligence, and so they are going to remain a clown in the circus of life. Thank you, Sadhguru, to those of us who are not only logical, also genuine, not afraid to be ourselves, and then we know science proves things and what works. And that the only time somebody's going to be a pain in the ass and a child about, I want it to be where it's about what is right, no, it feels right, is somebody who has all their feels and is lacking objectivity completely because they think they have none and they ignore their first 3 years of life. Your 3 years of, I'm still here. My child parts, they're all here. So, mastering the dance of life, it is a party of love, and it is one of laughter as well. And it takes the flight within the skies that are the truth of your inner eternal child that wants to join us and have a good time. And so you're the same person who guides yourself. We all have fun. I'm reading to some more channeled guidance. This one, I forget when this one came through, but it is when you can make out of your lovely garden that which are the flowers that you want to see, right? The smells, all those 5 senses. Okay, so as I continue with our lovely messages, as you become that lovely inner master of your own heart, it's not because of any necessarily external forces, although I know that the 4D and 3D, they continue to talk to you about that. So I have a download that I got, was a couple weeks ago. I mentioned it to you all. And in the download, it showed what was happening for the 5D and the protective dome that I visualized, or that came to me as a visual. So it's actually something that I'd seen already before. And let me remind you, as Dr. Amy Apigan points out, neuroception, people experience the world not with reality, but with their perception. So if you don't self-regulate in your ventral vagal state, and you don't know how to use healthy emotions because you don't know how to consistently be in a meditative state inside of you to forgive the unfair, bad grown-ups, those who are not actually love at all. Okay, so when people don't know how to sit at ease, they don't know eustress, and that's why they use the dark sides of neuroplasticity and their unhealthy self-soothing habits, and their window of tolerance shrinks, and it doesn't become a window welcome. So those people don't become emotionally masters or emotionally intelligent. They also don't become physically a master. So they don't access their 8th chakra, that awareness, because maximum certainty is uncomfortable for those who use logic alone. That's why they stay structurally dissociated. So they don't ever own their true self, like my facade friend, and that's why they don't take steps into that which is the farther version of what they could be, protecting the future. Future don't need protecting, but they can also know that the future isn't a piece of shit. Our species is doing great, and the beginner's mind. And so we have our adolescent essence, the essential spark, social engagement, novelty, creative expression. Thanks, Dr. Dan, because we're able to be curious, open, accepting, and loving, so present. Then you're also therefore tuning. We attune to our circumstances, and that's when we recalibrate. You don't need another to co-regulate. You self-regulate on your own. As Pat Ogden would point out, that means you're a non-traumatized, securely attached person, and if I'm in a room with a bunch of low frequency, I don't adapt to it, and they don't have to adapt to me. They will simply be around me, and I will be around them. That's called differentiation of the self, as Dr. Daniel Siegel presented it to me. So an integrated brain has no questions of who they are. And an intelligent mind, and that's an intelligent heart and gut, don't get pissing their pants and decide to call anybody that they don't like a monster, or anything that they don't like bad, a way a child would. So adaptive child part people, they have likes and dislikes, and they're not objective, which is why you don't pay attention to children as they perform a circus act, due to the fact that they're still trying to basically, like my facade friend, make sure that you won't reject them and throw them in the trash. This is all subconscious. So when someone is 3D, 4D, they're living their subconscious. They don't surrender in the way that we do to our destiny and our fate and our future. And basically, we don't surrender. God and I are in communion. So are those who are believers and intuitives. And it can be called Akash Source Animundi, or the scientists call it consciousness. Those who don't, then it's just your higher self. Restored, embodied, self-aware, accountable, regulating people. That's why mental fitness as a lifestyle, it's still happening here. Intentional living. I'm science. I'm pseudoscience, but I know science is. I'll take a Neil deGrasse over every single bit of the ignorant spiritual ones who think there's still monsters out there, because that's the part of how intelligence works. There's no obstacle to any of humanity's future. There never has been. We consistently evolve. We consistently expand. The ones who have their faith broken in humanity are the same ones I disregard completely, as their biases seep through every single one of their words, and they flip it and they flip back and forth, and they don't become the true person they could have become, because the limitless sky is not what they believe in. So when you have half brain person, it's a non-bilaterally integrated brain person. You don't shame anyone, because they still have the potential, as any enlightened one, guru and spiritual master and someone in communion with God would tell you. God's perfect, makes no mistakes, and the scientists prove it, because their body is headed home towards itself. The embodied brain is healing itself without the need of anything. The unfortunate business is that they got a 2-year-old in their brain with an inner critic and an outer critic, and that's the monsters in the head, and it's not Lucifer. Nope, it's a person who didn't learn self-regulation. And like Bezel van der Kolk points out, and like my facade friend, and more than just him, prove, you can try talking sense to anybody. To my facade friend, I said, you have an Achilles heel. And I told him his Achilles heel, and he still didn't move into union. So he doesn't have an integrated brain. And like many others who will follow jackasses around, they continue to perform a circus act, and they think we're the buffoons, which is fine. So the ones who lack emotional, mental intelligence, they lack so because they're not authentic. Their masks are very hard. They're very hard performing. Doer, doomsdayer, hostile, be good, ghost. Those are not good things to be, because they could use Patrick Tian, who would help them heal that. Why is your CPTSD not getting better? They could use Patrick Tian to heal that. Okay, so the right use of power, yes, the right use of power, we need more good grown-ups who explain to you, we don't know all things. Our ancestors knew some things, they don't know all things. Science knows some things, they don't know all things. When you meet the assholes who talk down to anyone, they're all morons. But you better bet that I, as I make fun of people who are morons, will be told, oh, but you're disrespectful. And I'm not trying to be, but hey, guess what? I'm so sorry. Let me tell you, my apologies. You didn't mean it. No, I meant it. I am in the awareness that we're so different that we can't be in the same room together. So I'm okay with that. Can I shake your hand and leave now, or shall I not shake your hand? And people think I'm trying to mock them. I'm not. I'm the grown-up. Accepting yourself as potentially being considered an asshole and an evil whatever, that's grounded in reality. Having a chip on your shoulder means that you'll think of it forever and ever and ever with a little, do you know what my personal quote-unquote revenge is? And so here it is. Hold on. So one, you get curious. And when you see a perfect storm, you know what's headed your way, but you know God don't test his children with evil, Knievel, medieval, because there's no Lucifer monsters. You know, God always is going to send you whatever it is that you can handle, because that's the point of why God doesn't shame his children. He encourages, comforts, strengthens, and he also, where's the other word? Challenges. So when I meet the mediocre, ignorant human beings who are trying to have, teenagers have not sex at all, or have it all sex, it's like, okay, Elvis, when he came around, please stop. Like, you need to stop being ignorant. I was 14 when I met ignorance. Luckily for me, I had good school. I had DARE, I had sex ed, and I was telling my teenage friends, okay, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Okay, here's the data. I'm now 45, and believe me, when I'm looking at YouTube, I'm not thinking, wow, I'm so, like, lost. I'm like, wow, you got grown-ups or teenagers on a screen. Oh, my gosh. And those people who think they are actually leading someone, I just think, no, you're not, but let me leave it alone. Because a truly intelligent mind will know that. We are neither influenced by our implicit, explicit memory, nor deluded by our imagination or downloads. So when I have downloads, I know some of the things are meant to be shared, others not necessarily. And then I always find some of my multidimensional. I had this very fascinating one that I'm like, okay, I know the full moon is coming, but wow, this one's a weirdo. And it's actually, I hadn't been there yet. So you'll always know. So the power of community. Okay, the breakthrough energy that comes from dissolving limiting consciousness beliefs, thoughts and emotions, feelings. It is invigorating, and it is full of the energy of the breath of life and love. and it gets you to continue being comfortable through your own skin, so you get to enjoy coming forth as your authentic self, which is why science and spirituality continue to prove the same. That which is kingdom of God, as Jesus pointed out, is within you. The seed of enlightenment, as Sadhguru points out, is within every person. And as Hippocrates also points out, every single body is going to be different, but the soul is the same. As Bessel van der Kolk points out, the soul gets tainted with that body's experience. The body keeps the score. People will still be manifesting with their trauma charges. The difference is they won't be joining the 5D collective, and they continue to do magical thinking and a lot more, but they respect the laws, so really it's none of our business if they don't want to use their 24 hours in a way to become the versions of themselves that can go with the flow and do Dharma, because they're knowing how to wield that lovely brain, thoughts, not be a coyote, so not trick themselves into staying within a low frequency, bad habits, dopamine hit and whatnot, but instead become their own mystical shaman, guru, enlightened one. If they're of our lovely mystic community, if they are of science, then it's really, again, the healthy restorative embodiment, the healthy resilience. So you get to come join us for mindful mindset practices, even if you don't use the mystic lingo. But obviously I'm going to say that anyone who's coming to full moon messages is going to be intrigued by mysticism, intuitiveness, consciousness in a way that is fun. And so we align with God's source, we apply the spiritual essence of love, we activate in God's will with Mother Earth's fifth dimension. We know that love is all things, that love never judges, and love doesn't ever obstruct free will. We also know that we are all creatures of habit. We will choose convenience over everything. Neuroplasticity has a bright side and a dark side. The ones who choose to commit to the dark side, it's none of our business, because you can't make someone who has disturbances in self-organization become aware of it, become accountable, become a person who's like, okay, I am, shitlessly scared of getting my emotional body online, which is why I numb it. So it's a very, very, again, personal thing. So we love all equally. You love, accept, respect everyone, the self-led people, and we do make fun of those who are immature. My sweet revenge, I'm so sorry, I forgot. It's not sweet, but as a teenager, I had told people, I said, God wins, evil doesn't. And that was it, pretty much. And by the time I'm 20, I met all these cowards. I had definitely, learned about death do part, sickness and health, for richer, for poorer, better, for worse, all these beautiful words from these people that taught me. So my Christian Catholic upbringing definitely is beautiful. And that's thanks to my self-agency and my mother and all of my family, obviously my twin, my younger sister, fathers, the grandparents, okay? But the compassion comes from Holy Spirit, Jesus, God. I made a promise. And then the truth comes from me wielding it the right way. And so when prickliness happens, you don't lose that which is the compass of integrity. So I don't care about what people will say when I was a teenager. Again, there's plenty of stories I could tell you. All I'm going to tell you is that I know grown-ups know some things, they don't know all things, and that I love all people equally. But no, I won't be friends with all, because my amygdala is a 14-month-old who likes to be with emotionally immense, intelligent people. And if people think they're intelligent as they half-heartedly love someone or something, they're not, because you're not committed to anything when you half-heartedly do shit. And so the love that we can offer each other is that when we make mistakes, we say we're sorry. When we really love, we care about each other's mental, emotional, and physical health, which is why we don't actually bullshit around. When we believe in our relationships, we also understand why emotionally immature people are not to be shamed, blamed, faulted, or revenged, and that the only people who want to give people a green pass or a red pass are the same people who we disregard. So when I had the stranger who didn't do enough to be saluted, I have fun with that, because I'm not making fun of him. I had fun with that because I have no insecurity. But when the human being who defended them said, at least I give people a shot, and you're trying to make it seem like I'm not giving people a shot because I'm being snooty, or the entire group who are like, those people have no healthy boundaries, are wrong, you're on one end of the spectrum, which is why then you're going to find consistently yourself in a very unhealthy, self-soothing, and more situations with a bunch of other ding, 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 ding. Okay, so one group which wants to give people a green pass when they have clearly unhealthy boundaries, doesn't matter what gender, is a red flag. You need to reparent your inner child because you actively have no healthy boundaries, no sense of self. You're given a green pass to an individual who does not need one. And this, if you're new, you don't know the story. So let's sit down and then I'm going to let you go. So the full moon brings ascension, expansion to everyone. And as I am actually being presented the conversation, because I've known the individual for my entire life, I don't do let me tell you the truth, because you are clearly deluded in thinking that you are giving a person an opportunity. You are allowing yourself to disregard that they tried hitting on you so many times that you had to reject them. Completely disregarding they came drunk, bothered your friend, completely, in this evening I got up and as we're leaving, I look at my friend, I'm like, I'm going home. I ain't following you around. I came out to hang out for a little bit, but I'm going. So this is the part of where not recognizing that you to yourself are bringing yourself in certain situations and telling someone that at least I allow myself to welcome people. Yeah, I welcome people too. And that person I didn't do anything to. I completely, consistently made them aware I don't want to be your friend. That's how it works when you're a 45-year-old woman. Did anybody think you'd grow up to meet people that are so insecure? And people say it's because you go to a pub. It's really, I go to the pub. You're an anomaly. No, I'm not. So let's stop. Can you stop saying that anomaly? Because really, there's some who are healthy, healthy emotionally, mentally, physically. We enjoy a little bit of wine. We can enjoy a little bit. So if people don't know how to enjoy, it's not because every human being out there has the lack of capacity to be enriched from within their own body and go out just to enjoy. And so the individual did not welcome that I was completely not their friend. They were upset and they were drunk in that evening and they had gotten rejected. And so they let out that which I'm sure their brain was thinking it. Because as they're saying, man, it doesn't have to be saluted. You said hi to him and him and him and her and blah. And I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. So that's the thing about when people get drunk. That's the only way they have courage sometimes, and really it's not important. It's sad to say that when I find that people think that it's good to be able to have a certain type of... I saw this bartender once and she's explaining if you get this way when you're drunk, and she's giving all these people these personality things that come up, and I'm thinking... Wow, because there's one where you're very fun and sociable and lovable, and it's like, oh, if it only comes out when you drink, that's actually you still hiding it. So, I mean, really, it's like you're an on-off switch. And so being, I think the word is inebriated, to become your whole self, that's like, okay. So this guy was obviously upset about the fact that I didn't want to become his friend. And by the end of this evening, though, he's like, and we'll become friends. And then my body's like, no, we won't become friends. We frequent the same place. No, I will not be talking to you. Yes, I will be seeing you. Because I'm not going to butter it up and change my mind because now you went and did what? The manipulative, desperate, which, by the way, is in a lovely Terrible. He has a unhealthy boundary little scale. And that's a desperate, manipulative of anxiety and anxious. When you have the avoidant ones, they just lock themselves away, which is way better because at least they're not involving you in their sob story, because this is how it feels when I'm like, there's plenty of solutions out there. It's called going to therapy and getting it. Do you think this guy didn't go to therapy? The next time I saw him, I had to look at him because he made me so aware of how indecent he felt. I acknowledged him, plus he was with a friend of mine. He looked at me. So the person who's defending them, even if I had said, do you not remember why you had to reject them? And I'm pretty sure the entire group is pretty right. They might be a little bit harsh about it, but I'm pretty sure they're more correct and you are not. And that's because the individual did not actually respect their boundaries. You see what I'm saying? Had they at least respected their boundaries, then sure, you gave a person a shot. They turned out to be great. They're, and here's where I have another story. So there's a lovely friend of mine. They're a friend now. I wasn't going to become a friend with them at all. Because after the first conversation, my brain was like, I'm not going to want to talk at all. This is bullshit. The entirety of all of it is bullshit. So, but long story short, we become friends. And eventually I have some of my friends who are like, why are you friends in the first place? And the way they said it is like when you're meeting those teenagers who are picking on one of the people of the group in a way of pointing out, they're really not that great to be around. Like they're a buffoon kind of deal. And I was like, well... you make a valid point, and I sat with it, and part of me felt a little bit guilty and not nice because it is a friend of mine, right? So I kind of agreed with how they were portraying that, and so I didn't let it go. I thought about it. And then the day after, I went to the person who brought it up, and they're like, "Oh, so you're still thinking about it?" Like, yes, you posed a very interesting question, and I want to answer it. And I said, because I'm now friends with them. Now that I'm friends and I welcome them as they are, they're my friend. I hang out with them. I said, why wouldn't I be? And I gave my answer that way. And so, and this is where my friend, by the way, they know that they're not welcome by all and that they're buffoon. And I tell my friend what I think about them in their face. So, I mean, this is the part of where at least with those who are authentic and we welcome ourselves as we are, that's why friendships are going to be able to continue and relationships to be authentic. And that's where I think of Sid, Manny, and Diego from Ice Age, because that's what people are if they're healthy. It's where we can all be a little bit sensitive to something, but you're not really sensitive if you're emotionally matured. If you're not, then that's a whole different story. I don't hang out with people like that. This is why whenever I've had anyone who's an insecure person, I'm like, look, I can't give you what you're looking for. This is not me. I can give you some things, but not all things. I'm not going to be changing up how I work, but I can obviously, and I want to care that we continue. The part about Patrick Chan talks about half safe people. So if people are emotionally immature, they will consider people who are on off switches as half safe. Or they will also consider this. Let me read you another quote, which instead, this is not something that a grown woman or man or they will tell you when they are emotionally mature. Because it's not only you bringing forth your best self, it's you being able to understand that someone might think you're a fucking piece of shit. I've been told it, by the way. Oh, it's actually quite clear. I don't tell people they're pieces of shit. One, I'm 4'9", and two, really that's not nice and it's not true because I live a subjective experience. And so I was a teenager when I'm short. I've mentioned that before, right? They have a couple of sayings in Italian that are quite quote unquote offensive. One of which would be that I'm hiding something because I'm a goody two-shoe. And it's in those ways of where, you know how sometimes, you were looking for it kind of deal, okay? So I didn't get that, but basically that level of ignorance. And I don't like to use the word toxic because, see, to me that word, it's not about toxicity. You are actively going to be a human being who was treated so poorly that you don't even recognize. And when someone dresses themselves up and then they think that they're better than others, that's even more entertaining to a person like me, because the minute that these things have taken place where I'm hearing them and I'm watching them, and then I get to take a really good close perception of them, like that man with his little Russian roulette, yeah, that ain't an actual man. That's a human being who's still tortured by the past, who thinks like TV shows and like games, and their low frequency, the dopamine hit of that yucky visceral, is so perceptible by any person who's a mystic, by the way, who perceives energy, and you just think that's disgusting. Who knows what shit goes on in your head? I'm happy I'm not in it, would never want to be it. It ain't no fucking Lucifer. It's a human being who had shit go down and you didn't go get help. And I won't be able to tell you that in your face. I would never be able to tell someone that in their face because I'm in a biosphere. Once I'm around people, I can talk about it here because I'm not engaging with you. And so all of my thoughts can come through. But you better bet that will not come through when I'm in the presence. And those people would say, you're scaredy cat then. No, but hey, if you want, sure. If that makes you happy and satisfied, I'm okay with that. And that is the other part that people can't handle because I'm sincere. I don't give a shit about your opinion. You just told me how you would behave. I'm not behaving like you because my body is my body. You have your body. And actually, your nervous system, by the way, decides for yourself. That's why Robert Sapolsky, he's onto something with that, determined. So the first 3 years of your life, I ain't going to shit on Maria because her first 3 years of her life decided how she's going to handle big, bad, ugly grown-ups who are pieces of shit. And that my mother taught me manners, so no, I don't curse in their face. I curse here, and someone who I told that to was like, but that's vulgar, Maria. I was like, I don't tell it in their face. But still, which is why I give people a heads up, so that in case they come across something like, look, I curse, like really curse. And then I remember not to make it into habit because it actually is something off-putting. if you're having a nice conversation, I can say that I'm not going to be as appreciative of it, but I wouldn't think of someone who's like, oh God, you're so vulgar. I would think nothing of that person except for, oh, wow, really? You're going to judge me now, huh? Come on, let's judge some, shall we? No. So again, whenever there's a scarlet letter to be gifted, I, as a teenager, was culpable of it. The black and white thinking is why every one of us will be on one end of the spectrum or another. Doesn't mean you stay on extremes. If you're mature, you sit in the middle, because that's exactly why we're not helpless, hopeless, or sensitive in a way of thinking that there's a weak side for real. I mean, yes, there is a weak side, and those are all the ones that we want to help. But the weak ones who don't forgive, those people we don't need to be near, because they don't actually think we exist. That's why we're future humans. They don't think that there's the capacity for human beings to not suffer. Apparently, they like to think that the temporal junction, so that they don't, that's like a Zen master. He doesn't know how to do his laundry. Cry. There are people who, by the way, they don't understand. Window tolerance becomes eventually a window welcome. If you're minimizing your window tolerance by continuously using bad habits, it's like starting, the choo-choo train made it because he consistently moved forward. That's why Dan Martell talks about mediocre people being dangerous. As soon as you're allowing maladaptive patterns of behavior to be your MO, I'm going to do inner outer critic, drink, drug, fuck, all that not great stuff. I'm going to allow myself to fill my heads with blah, blah, blah. You're allowing the dark sides of neuroplasticity. And that left mode, by the way, is already leading the show. So you haven't made it into the balance of left and right. You haven't made it into, I'm going to have self-compassionate and compassionate talk. You haven't made it to, I will work with my rigidity and my chaos, and that's where the personality patterns come in while we have a fun time. That's why the messages are for those who have a fun time, transformative life, because you're fulfilled. You're deeply feeling all of that, which is why it's disappointing. So my facade friend, the only man that I ever actually said, well, I asked you to be yourself, because once you get one coward and another coward and another coward and another coward, you just learn how their frequency is. In fact, the timbre voice of my facade friend, I'll never forget when I heard it again, as this individual who was trying to pretend that they didn't care. But see, it's all subconscious. That's why it's the non-metabolized trauma time that comes up, as Pat Ogden points out. So once you are aware, like I am at this point with all attachment trauma education, whenever I'm around children, they're not going to see anything of Maria. They're going to see that I know how to handle. No, they're not going to notice anything. Emotionally immature people aren't in it for the they're not caring about you. I'm not laughing because it's funny. They're closed off. Their heart isn't connected to you the way that you would think. They don't have the capacity to be connected. You can't be self-righteous, contemptuous, and in your frequency of low insecurity and be connected, because you're already doing the Cusco dance. So it doesn't matter, because I don't matter. That's why when it comes to Shiva, Kali, and Krishna Lila, it's not my heart is broken. It's I'm aware that I'm in the presence of a person who's playing around with their defense mechanisms. So George Fowler, LMFT, he says, these are some of the loneliest moments on the planet. To have the person next to you who offers the promise of vitality, of life force, of connection, of warmth, and instead it feels like that person doesn't even know you. It's not lonely, by the way, as you grow up. Personally, my facade friend didn't make me feel lonely. I yelled in his face after finding out that he was pretending again. I saw his blank stare. Then I got all attachment trauma educated on the part about actually the disconnect. I'll never forget when it happened, the first time it happened, to where it's like, oh my gosh. And this was another person. I don't believe they know who the fuck I am. Okay. Yeah, can I scratch my head? Because this is confusing, and it's not happened only with one person. And then I learned about, again, those who have attachment wounds. And so you're just a pawn in someone's basically little safe haven, secure base. A secure connection is why it does. It's not, I won't minimize those people who are actually in these spaces. It's not lonely. It's also not fulfilling. But it's also not something that you're going to think, I cut people out of my herd. No. You expand your herd. That's why we are not lost. the compass is a good compass, and that's why our ancestors knew some things. They don't know everything. Intentionality is yours, and when you're intentionally living, while our ancestors didn't have science, we do. So when I hear someone wanting to talk about someone as a devil, no, but they don't have to move out of stagnating energy like my facade friend. So as he got older, he didn't get more fun. Now I can't call him an asshole because I think he really thinks I mean it, and I think he's that sensitive. He didn't transmute the pain. He didn't take ownership of all of his stuff. When the opportunity came around, he and I became friends again. So if you want some stories, let me allow myself to say, if you are done, you can go bye-bye. The messages were gifted. So, the inner master, you're still in your mind. The outer master, you're also able to self-regulate. So you have the 8th chakra in the capacity of you. You have access to the infinity and beyond of thoughts and emotions. With the 9th chakra, you're able to connect to that which is the unknown and to not use unhealthy self-soothing mechanisms. I'm grabbing some of my papers so that I can remind myself of those messages. And this is the part that's even more fun, actually. Yes, the breakthrough energy that comes from dissolving limiting consciousness beliefs, thoughts, and emotions, feelings. It's invigorating. It's very invigorating. And that is why when you hear people telling you about the twin flame thing being something that's horrendous, no, you are balancing immediately, like with my facade friend. Okay, so my facade friend and I, there's 5 years where I don't talk to him because that's what happens when you disrespect a bond. That's what happened. The only person I ever didn't talk to. 5 years, completely angry, had him in a hate box, said, hey God, I'll take care of it once I'm ready. I'm not ready now. And someone said, if you're still so angry, you must love him a lot. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. We've been friends for my entire life. So when, in the meantime, he gets cheated on, instead of saying, hey, Maria, I miss you, my friend, he writes, are you happy now? And I'm like, well, what? I don't know what you're talking about. She's cheating on me. I'm like, I'm not happy for your misery. And I didn't know about the polyamory stuff. Otherwise, I would have like, why don't you go into an open relationship? I think that might be very well better for you. So when you have an ego that doesn't need to actually prove itself, you got a self, and that's why radical acceptance. When I opened up a relationship of mine, I said, this is non-negotiable. Polyfidelity vessel is really fun, so you don't feel shamed for being a polyamory person. You also don't say to someone, you're not poly enough. That's not nice. So when I find out about a lot of interesting topics, polyamory, polysecure, polywise, I still have to finish polywise. I just think, wow, I thought they would have been more grown up. And then I'm reminded, I laugh, because when you meet immature people, here's what they did with the twin flames, the divine matrix, right? The matrix is being crumbling down thanks to the twin flame community. They build a community of like the flat earthers. Really, I'm more with Bill Nye, or Nay, however you pronounce his last name. If the matrix even is real, do you think you're really going to prove it? You need an answer to which came first, the chicken or the egg. You're not a master of the 9th chakra. You're not a master of the 8th chakra, okay? So when people are not yet using their human secondary consciousness to be inspired to consistently contemplate beyond what your thoughts are, which is why Thomas Campbell says the truth is not fragile. Where's my notes? Hold on. I want to grab. He has some really wise words. And if you're new, you didn't hear it yet. And I had told teenage friends, quote unquote, the sweet revenge thing. Love always wins. I already knew that, but I know God wins because God's perfect. He's also so perfect to the point of where he allows all of us to be interacting with each other. We're choice points. So my facade friend and I, we've known each other since I was a teenager. Physicist Thomas Campbell, the truth is not fragile. It will always float to the top. But sometimes it takes time to get past beliefs, and it takes a huge paradigm shift to get there. But eventually it will get there. And when it does, and the scientists say, yes, this is correct, that's when it's going to become part of our societal culture. Which is why when you meet ignorant ones, you think, okay, science doesn't disprove God. Science explains the kingdom of God within everyone. So Jesus pointed that out. Also, God is perfect, so all his children have a place at the seat of the kingdom. Why would you go against decentralizing in the self? And that was the legit question I asked the man who said, God doesn't need science. And I'm thinking, not about the man who believes the buffoons who are still using their mouth and they want me. I don't think of them as leaders. Your intellectual brain is not intellectually intelligent. You cannot be a leader. Seeing somebody write a theologian that Reiki is bad makes me think. I did a research paper once too. My paper was how animals go to heaven. I learned exactly how to, you think that's proof? That's qualitative. It ain't quantitative data, as my scientist people like to remind me, which is why I appreciate them, because I'm like, yeah, that's going to help every single person know what actual logic is. So that's why talk down to me, because I'm okay with pseudoscience lady bit. I'm not the pseudo-intellectual, that's for sure. And it's not a huge paradigm shift, by the way. It's baby steps. Did anybody read the book, The Societal Construct? I have it. I'm going to show it to you in a minute. And when I read it, I was like, so everything's fake, but I understood it from humanities, social science perspective. So it's not a huge paradigm shift. We had our ancestors do the sex revolution. We had Elvis come in whenever that was. So we've been consistently, gradually becoming smarter. And so when someone wants to say polyamory or whores, no, we're not. We exist. When somebody says, you're not poly enough, okay, come on, really? Like, when you meet smart people, you know what they do? We have fun with the conversation. And then we don't think one group needs more support than another group. We just think we're all part of the same species. We want children to grow up having healthy self-worth, healthy self-soothing, healthy self-empowered. Why are you still showing people getting so drunk and wasted that you think it looks amazing? Someone going to a fraternity and thinking it's cool that they lock you in a room, have you do yucky shit, and then almost give you alcohol poisoning, that's not cool. What, you're building a network of what? Buffoons? Because I'm not seeing any kind of, wow, conspiracy. I'm seeing a bunch of people doing dangerous things. Conspiracy theorists, yeah, sure, whatever. I mean, seriously, I'm a political science major, and by learning all about attachment trauma education, all I can tell you is when I did another research paper where it was about what was it? Evil corrupts, or power and evil, something like that. As I'm reading and building my case studies, where I got told qualitative data doesn't stand up in anything, Maria. You need quantitative. I'm like, well, this is a research paper for maybe me doing my PhD, so I didn't take it to like, oh my God. What I found out was it's not power that corrupts. And so someone says, so you changed your mind. No, I got knowledge. Expanding, 45.0 version. That's the part of where when I think of the change word, it's I didn't change, I expanded. As I have the same consistent belief, God is one. If he's real, for me he is, then there's dark matter, dark energy. Love is real, the oxytocin, so I can make sense to myself. This is the part we all can. That's why, as Terrio points out, relationships are subjective. And that's why whenever someone wants to bring me their hypotheses, sure, keep talking. I know where quantitative data is, and I know who I'm going to hear it from. Neil deGrasse, thank you, man. Bill Nye, thank you, man. I know exactly the ones who are mingling and tingle, not the ones who take themselves out of the field, no. The ones who want to take themselves out of the field, and then they have conspiracy and they point fingers. They are part of just as much as any other paradigm shift and changing. But I'm going to always look to the ones who always come together. The ones who consistently respect each other, even as they're maybe teasing each other, talking down, having fun, whatever it is, but they come together all the time. You isolate, you don't mean more than anyone else who isolates. That's actually also a red flag. That's why guru, cult leader, very easy to find out which one's which. The cult is all isolated with people like a flat earthers kind of deal, but they're not a cult. What a big word. Wow, you really need to use that big of a word? Are you that afraid of enlightenment? Because that's what I think when someone needs to begin to use words in ways to create groups. And so petty in and out group 14-month-old people who don't own themselves use these kinds of words, and it's called weaponizing it. Which is why the manipulative desperate can also have the one on the top, which looks like the squirrel from Cusco land. Anybody watch it? That's a hypocrite. You think that's dangerous? Just use your sword a little bit more. I'm not afraid of it. Then we got the avoidant on this side who goes and says, I'm doing so better than you. And then you got the one closed in the corner. So all these people are unhealthy, self-soothing, unhealthy self-worth, unhealthy. They don't know emotional intelligence, let alone emotional depth. In fact, one of them wields their words so well. It's dangerous to have no emotions. It's not inherently true that it's healthy or enlightened to be non-reactive. Wow, now that's a doozy. You didn't learn the bright side of the neuroplasticity, nor can they do it. Because in order for them to be able to do it, they need to get out of the monsters from their head. They also need to visit this, and they would actually have to be in a fetal position with Patrick Tiahan before any of that might remotely come online at some point. Because that's why I honor the man. He may not believe in forgiveness, but there's a reason he's there for the people who want to heal themselves. So when he says we don't have to forgive because your parents didn't do the best they could, no, they ignored that they needed help. And I will be always standing with somebody who's science related versus somebody who wants to give anybody a pass or whatnot. So in part, I don't know how it is to be broken because I wasn't. But I know a DID lady who says we are fixable and she's writing a book. And then I saw a DID lady who's healing, and she's excited. She's at her 7-year mark. And as she was saying, I'm at the 7-year mark. She's like a kid who's so excited. That is an honor to see. Not a man who says lack of imagination for evil. Don't wield your words like that. You lack education, and then you lack knowing of Michael Stone forensic criminologist scale and Patrick McNamara and more. And so you lack the capacity to honor all of those who are humans who got the short end of the stick. And I don't have a question to why. Because the minute that I heard a bunch of other shit come out of the mouth of the person, I know exactly who the monster in their story is. That's what happens when people are using their non-metabolized trauma stuff as they have self-righteous, contemptuous batons because they're trying to be the very opposite of that which they had. But they're not in control, nor are they masters, nor are they seeing it. They're buffoons who are being managed by their 14-month-old and then all the other books they read. If you are emotionally intelligent, you spot them like a hawk because they're clearly going to have a good group and a bad group. And that's the minute of truth. You don't have a philosopher. You don't have anyone in front of you except for somebody who's got a bunch of books with them. And in fact, the way that they'll portray it, because I was in academia, so I know what it's like. And that's why I make fun of a lot of things, by the way. But Thomas Campbell, I love the man. He actually made a very good point. And a person that was listening to it was like, but wait a minute. But it has to be real. It's like, oh, everything you're going to make sense of it. That's how it works. Yeah. So you're stupid. No, again, inner masters. We're cool with ground in reality stuff. And so the paradigm shift, what else does he say? Scientists say yes, is correct. The virtual reality, love is the point. Love entropy is the point. And lowering entropy is obviously healthy. Creating, sharing, that is what positive. And while grabbing, selfish taking is high entropy and negative. Now, the people who don't like to hear it, again, they are the same ones who are completely in rigidity and chaos. Adaptive child part people, they don't like to, they don't think. That's why we leave it alone. They get reactive. So when someone wants to tell me what their belief is because they can't handle that I have a different belief, I mean, excuse me, some random dude, you're confusing science spirituality. No, I'm not. That's why you have a fun time with them. 5D collective, we get to continue expanding. So my facade friend, let me go back to the story. Okay, so repairing body, mind, spirit, me talks. Okay, so I don't do the toxic word, Maria, and anybody who is their transformative self isn't going to use it either because they will not need to be reparented. So they don't feel that people are half safe. They don't feel lonely when somebody will have promised that they would be something or not. Facade friend, teenage boyfriend. I love all the people that are part of my life, and I tell the stories as I want to. But I do want you to understand there are two kinds of people. Those who make things happen and those who enjoy it when it happens well and complain when it doesn't. I don't have complaints about my boyfriend as a teenager or my friends. I love them, but I'm going to tell the story as it is, and if people don't like it, that's their thing, not mine. So when someone wants to allow themselves to give you their thought of how it is to be polite or not, this is consistently another human being chiming in to where is none of that which can be comparable. I'm not in your body and you're not in mine. Differentiation of the self means self-acceptance with empowerment, with the ease, and obviously we're all going to feel that we want to do each other good. That's the one thing that humans always will do, is they want to help each other, which is why we all have the same heart. The difference is I won't be made to feel guilty because you have a different way of handling. That's why the person is like, oh, but at least I give them the chance. Give them the chance. As a teen, I was selective. Not picky. My BFF of all times, I thought you were a snoot. I'm not. I'm empowered. I know what I want. I know that now. And then she lied to me, the third cheating incident. And I went to her after 7 days because I was like, I'm upset right now. I need to wait till I'm calm because if I'm upset, that ain't going to work. I'm going to say shit that I don't mean. I was only 18 and 19. That's how easy it is for you to know. Anger is going to make me say shit I don't want to say. I waited 7 days until I was ready to see her because at that point I was disgusted. I was upset. I'm like, how does a BFF of all times, my only BFFF, that doesn't make sense. She knows I follow Jesus, God, Holy Spirit. What the fuck? Like, ah. So I wait. And then when I'm ready, I knew. I was like, okay, time to go. So, hi, guess what? To the boyfriend, I said, look, this is getting old. Now it's getting childish. We're growing up. I'm getting ready to go to school. Just decide what you want in life because it's not that hard. We're back. It was 3 days we had been back together. So, long story short, I talked to my BFFF, and all I get is twice the same answer. I was afraid. And all I could say to myself was, I guess people are afraid of confidence. That's the only time I ever considered, again, why people are afraid to say the truth. As attachment trauma educated, now I know. So my facade friend, let's move back to him. As I didn't speak to him for 5 years, once shit hit the fan, I was already growing my clairs. I had Twin Flame 1, Twin Flame 2 came into the mix, and Twin Flame 3 at a certain point. And this is a friend of mine that I would look forward, in fact, to when he would come to visit so that we could go and have fun. Okay, so it's like a brother. And that's where I knew that intuitively. An empowered feminine knows she has soul contracts. So even before I had clairs, I already knew that I was lucky and that I had all these people that were in my life out. And they all people that I have so far. You have a lot of different souls that you'll encounter. So there's twin flames, there's soulmates, there's family souls, there's colleague souls. So I've met those ones where we give each other information. This is how I learned about the different souls of our oversoul and stuff like that. So I knew something was up because I was intuitive and I had picked up on a hunch or two, but I was not going to reach out to him because he disrespected our friendship. He lied to me. He buffooned me, a bunch of other things. So I was committed to that, which I had already decided. And instead, he wrote me. I had left him with a pending friend request. I didn't block him because I was like, that's petty. I don't need to block him. But if I delete it, then he can send it again. So I'd rather just leave it pending. That way I don't have to deal with it at all. And I, in fact, got an email, a message, which was, you're being childish. You've even accepted friend requests from people who didn't. No, from people who talked behind your back. And I knew who the people were. And what made me laugh was, wow, you're telling this to me now because you're wanting to tell me that I have to accept. I'm not being, I said, I might be being childish, but I already said no before. So, and thanks for letting me know about the talking behind the back. I was pretty sure that was happening in the first place because of the way that these girls would stare me down with what I was wearing, with what I was dressing, all of it. But I mean, again, it's not like, oh my God, let me change my purse because otherwise, let me try it. No, the only time I'm concerned with the way I'm dressing, I will ask my mother and my younger sister, who are fashionados, to dress me up because, and my hairdressers. Yes, I have no sense of fashion, and I trust only a certain amount of people that I know what fashion is. Doesn't mean I look at myself and think, wow. But sometimes there are things I like that make people think, you look like an alien. I'm like, well, I do come from the future. So with that being said, he writes me, we meet up, we have a very serious 2-day conversation. I sit him down. I said, all I asked was for you to be yourself. I didn't ask you to pretend, And then 3 years go down the line, and he then presents to me, I don't believe in God, and you all know that one. But what I was trying to tell you about, so the universe, God, source, Akash, always is nudging the children to become their best self. So my friend, what happened to him was that the perfect job, his entrepreneurship, the perfect woman, like a rug, bam, tower moment, like huge tower moment. This was very bad to the point of where my friend had no money. And so he has his only friend who's a goody two shoes, no alcohol to the extent of whatever he was doing, no drugs whatsoever, no cocaine. I find out that later on, he eventually tells me that he would do shit like that. I'm like, what? That's not good for you. Why are you doing cocaine? And so luckily for him, he gets stuck with me. And I'm not joking with you because also I don't have like millions to go spending. So I have good habits, no millions to be spending. In the meantime, we had some fun times, and then I got all this mystic shit going on. And me finding out that he didn't believe in anything was very upsetting, but I had already gotten used to the fact that people didn't know how to be their self. So you get used to fake people. And so what I find out also is he didn't hear my explanation for why I didn't talk to him for 5 years. He used his version. So adaptive child part people don't respect or accept that you have a different way of thinking and feeling something through, which is why the scars that I have they're not scars, as I've mentioned, but when you'll share them, it will only be with people who are emotionally deep and mentally deep. And if it's not, then you find out they're not half safe. You just don't talk to them anymore, because those are the ones who suffer life. And I have had those who are like, oh my God, so dramatic, so much. It's like, no, I don't feel like it's drama. Why are you wishing that my life was different? I mean, I didn't realize you didn't understand what tears were or happiness. Okay, so that's how Maria feels when people think you're pretending. You're just pretending to make yourself look strong. No, I'm not pretending. It's not a big deal if I have some crying going on. And so that's, again, open-ended inquiry. You build strength and this courage stuff, but really I'm going to say it's like a muscle. That's why mental fitness as a lifestyle. It's really, you're going to window welcome and your energy body expands, and that's an integrated brain. So this is for anybody who hasn't been tuning into our episodes. But my facade friend luckily gets stuck with me, and we have a bunch of laughs together. He gets up back on his feet eventually. He makes one good connection besides me, and this is, I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but he finds a job. Now he's doing good. He finds life partner. The life partner thing, that was where it was his last actual choice point, because in that moment he was being gifted the opportunity to choose to continue to pursue his dreams of moving into becoming an entrepreneur again, of finding his ideal partner, because he has in his mind not only his ideal partner but also his ideal lifestyle, which I know exactly what it's like. It was what was taken from him. So while he was able to take the hit, not become a complete unfortunate individual, which instead another human being next to him was not capable. They gamble, they drink, I don't think they do drugs, but they gamble and drink, and they're bad habits, and they hang out with the same people who are in that frequency. So unfortunately, who was supposed to act as a role model didn't, and they didn't do any of that. And that's where the person that is my friend instead, thankfully, was able to not lose self-esteem and ego, and was able to make, at the very bare minimum, life happy, which is why his partner is part of that. But the moment he was being gifted the opportunity to think things through was where we had a conversation. I've mentioned this one to you before, where my women and men friends were having these issues. I was not, because I had all the twin flame stuff. So those are not issues. Those for Maria were more of what the fuck, masculines, get your shit together, And this is when, while the ones who want to say it's thanks to twin flames that our planet is doing great, it's thanks to humanity. And really, I mean, savior complex. Anyone need a savior complex? That's what people who are not their inner masters, they need to feel like they're doing something that is a big. That's why it's magical thinking, hopeful, wishful, but it's a way that they live. And so I remember I've met a number of mystics 4D who think that without them, the earth won't move into the next cycle. And like the earth moved into its next cycle, I remember, because my chakras aligned with it. The earth continues to do its shit because the earth lives in the absence of us. We're the ones who are calibrating to it. They have it the other way around. You see what I'm saying? The cosmos has everything in divine order, which is why you kind of do have, yes, the capacity to own your own destiny, because that's where, when you're wielding as an inner master, that's the plank point, the oneness. This is the thing you hear the 4D talking about in certain ways. I'm going to give it to you the human way. You're yourself. It's the restored, embodied, self-aware, accountable, regulating person. Every 24 hours counts. Like Dan Martell points out, you eat well, you do things well, you don't hang around mediocre people, you don't think of them as dangerous if you are around them, okay? And that's why I didn't have my friend affect me. I didn't affect him. I simply was there. Again, we're choice points. So you choose for yourself, personal spiritual growth. I choose for myself. And then as a biosphere, we continue to support each other. But the earth doesn't need us. And we are part of nature, and we're not bigger than anything else. And if the aliens come at some point, which I'm sure they will, did anybody ever really think that we were the only species? I mean, when I hear some grown-ups think that is actually a possibility, I'm like, do you not remember learning about when we thought the sun and us revolved? Like, it's ego. Hello. Hello, is anyone there? So the friend of mine, I'm asking him about this men stuff that they just want to fuck you and they don't tell you. And I'm just like, why would that happen? And he's giving me an explanation. And like, so they are trying to be cowards. No, Maria, they just want to be not mean. I'm like, no, that's not about mean. Cowards. It's not a clown. You're a coward. That's it. Just admit it. I'm okay with it being where you just aren't wanting to tell the truth. So long story short, as we're having the conversation, he actually realizes that he's kind of stringing along something that would be best for him to not, because the person really cares about him. And instead of doing what he had said he was going to do, which is break off the relationship, continue seeking to have his dreams come true, he established the relationship and says, I learned what love is, which is giving to each other in all ways, shapes, and forms. And that is why something was learned and taught, but he didn't go after his dreams. And some people say, but he still learned something. He didn't go after his dreams because he didn't have the ownership of his sense of self. My friend is the same insecure human being he was when he was a teenager. And his Achilles heel is the same Achilles heel he had when he was a teenager. So that's the part of why when my friend and I talk, he's like, Maria, it seems like you think you know everything. I don't know everything, but I know what you were capable of. And that's why when you think of God, he, like a father or Mother Earth or her, however, parents who do the best they can are the ones who know we're all flawed and imperfect. The best we can is unconditionally loving, and then it's healthily loving. I will healthily direct you towards that which will give you physical, mental, and emotional health. I will make you a member of society, and then I will allow you to remember to stay humble. That is what health is, which means you don't play a bigger shot, and you don't cast a stone, and you don't give scarlet letters around, and then you do know that laws exist and we go and vote and that there's 8 billion people, like logic, okay? That's what a healthy grown-up does. While bad grown-ups do what adaptive child part people do, which is why I don't look at them up or down. I just think, wow, a bunch of buffoons. Hey, Schopenhauer, what was it? The masses. Yeah, there's a bunch of 3D, 4D masses over there because they ran off a bit. When I saw people running off of Facebook after what is not a docu anything, I was like, aha, sheep. And that's why I don't actually listen to all of those who are on the online marketing. No, I only listen to some. Gary Vee is one. He's excellent and he knows what he's talking about. And then there's some others. And, that's pretty much it. But I learned how not to listen to any of the other ones who actually made it sound like this thing was the revolution. Like, oh my God. I was like, that's brainwashing. They just put a whole bunch of shit behind the scenes with music. It's horrible. It's like what journalism leads. It's the same bullshit. I don't need any adjectives. Yeah, I wanted a data. Where's the data? Nobody was valuable. Where was it valuable? It seemed like there was a bunch of disgruntled employees and a bunch of other people who were hypocrites. Get off of Facebook, do virtual reality. My friend almost got hooked on this in a way of not his health. So when someone is talking about one thing as better than another thing versus allowing themselves to say there are good things and bad things, okay? That's why the sales pitch of the superhero and the supervillain, are you done? Are you done being on TV? But some people, that's the only way that they're going to do life because they're motivated by there being a right and wrong because they're also out to get their vendetta. That's why they're not fascinating. It's like lovely Sadhguru points out. If you have been put through unpleasant situations in life, you should be sensible enough not to put anyone else in that situation. Those who have self-righteous, contemptuous anger, and that is the weak energy, they will want to get payback. And that's subconsciously, which is why it's not a monster. That's why it's completely hilarious to see people think they're still monsters somewhere. Because their ego is every single bit of participating with the books that they regurgitate to you, with their common sense, and with their, I can build a Hansel and Gretel as well, little breadcrumb trails. So my friend, when he speaks to me words of, it seems you think you know everything. Yes, I do know some things. And love is very simply put, kind, present, also straightforward. Okay, so God encourages, strengthens, comforts, supports, doesn't shame, isn't trying to get people to whip themselves, beat themselves, to continue living in a cave. There's very much logic here for me, grounded in reality. The ones who want to isolate, they're not grounded in reality. They have committed that their belief is the one belief. We have people who don't take their children to hospitals because that makes them more of faith. That's called ignorance. It's not about God not needing science. the fact that people can wield their mouths like that and then be actually walking the streets thinking of themselves proudly with integrity, cognitive dissonance. I can't talk sense to anyone like that, right, Bezel? Because, like Stephen Porges points out, mobilization, story in the head, and then shame continuum. The minute somebody is ashamed because they're not doing what is the clear conscious thing, it's called, I've seen it. I've seen it when I was telling people, no, I was telling one girl who decided to interrogate me because I don't judge people. The entire evening, her and the friends of them were judging people. And so when someone has shame being triggered, what happens is they project it upon you. And that's why I know what it is when someone gets upset. I don't take it personally. Like my friend who said, I bet you $1 you're a fucking object. And that's the moment of truth, which an empowered feminine knows as she looks to the past. Is there anything that I would change about my life? No. There is not one thing that I would change. And at certain points, there are things that I would have changed, which would have been if I only had known about attachment trauma education. Then I would have been able to manage and be a lot more effective at handling any of those insecure people with gloves, so that I would have been a nice person to people who needed not to hear what I thought at all, because they couldn't handle it, they couldn't take it, and really it was unnecessary. I wasted my time, wasted their time. There were tears that were shed for no other reason except for I was ignorant on attachment trauma education. But today I have stories that I can tell you all about. And so with the betting of the human being who bet me the $1, I call them back, let them know that I lost the bet, and then I also let them know I wasn't going to call them back because they did a very shitty thing. And they did say sorry, kind of, but they never really took full-blown awareness of, wow, you used the word friend with me. And yet in a moment of my highlight, and that means I'm sharing something amazing, but you're down in the dumps, you actually have the capacity to make a bet with a person you call a friend. Because see, if I really wanted to bring to somebody something profound, I could do it that way. It's not because I'm holding it on a finger. It's because the realistic thing is, if you really consider the word friend, the good times and bad times, that's what friends are for. So let's get Aristotle, which is why I committed to friends when I was a kid. Teenage boyfriend. I said, don't think we're going to do what our friends do. I'm not going to ditch our friends. I don't understand how they can talk about us as friends when they're ditching everyone. Don't think I'm going to check your phone after you cheated on me, because that's not what I'm going to do, because I'm not like my friends are friends, and I don't need to. I didn't lose trust. If you're going to lie to me, you're going to lie to me again, whether I check your phone or not. Also, I'm not your mama, papa, and really, it's ridiculous. Don't you dare think you can check my shit in that way. Meaning, I ain't your parent. I ain't your guardian. I'm not needing to control you or check in on you. That's all insecure people. So I don't actually think of people that are codependent on each other as something like, wow, and like, they're real, they need you. So I was, again, a teenager, and I'm already saying to him things that I continue to share. So Aristotle thought that a friend you love is considered your second self, someone whose pain feels like your own. Emotions, they're not contagious. It's that we're nervous systems. Love is when you can make mistakes, say you're sorry. Teenage boyfriend got forgiven because I believed in the relationship. Once he had decided that he wanted a different relationship, I also knew why. And I was never going to meet and match what he wanted. But when people said, you let him get away, I said, who, my dog? I didn't have a dog. He wasn't on a leash. I didn't realize I was trying to hold on to him like that. You think that by his head turning around so easily that I thought of that as a man? That's not the man. No, 1 month in, I'm like, wow, the grown-ups are wrong. I still love him the same. Don't want to fuck him. Happy he's with his significant other, and today we're friends. And while they are judged by some people, I say, can you stop judging? Because at the end of the day, he chose what he wanted. Throughout his entire journey as a mystic, picking up on my oversoul, I remember clearly having downloads again and again of all the choice points. We have choice points. Then comes a time where you've committed to stagnation. So like my facade friend, instead of doing, I'm going to believe in myself and I'm going to go after what I want, which would be the hard path, but it's not a hard path. It's a hard path for those who don't learn to love themselves first and to be their grown-up version, thinking and feeling. So it's an easy path. Full moon brings a lot of beauty to those who are ready to transform consistently within their own self, because they already did that which is called get their sense of self and to stay mentally and emotionally intelligent. And it isn't a special gift. It's an embodied brain that has the capacity. So our spirituality ancestors were right about a lot of things. They just didn't convey it in the way that the scientists do. And the scientists give you restored, embodied, self-aware, accountable, regulating. There's a book out there, IPMB framework. There's also PDP framework. Now, if some people want to say, no, it's not true, I can say with determined Robert Sapolsky that there's potential truth to some people continuing to stay unhealed, staying emotionally mature. Yeah, because they choose their convenient bad habits, and they choose their convenient low frequency, and they choose to do so because the dopamine hit, because they're not acknowledging that they have a problem. If you don't acknowledge that you have a problem, which is a low frequency, because you don't think of it as a problem, but you think that life is meant to be of that frequency, suffering, it's because you haven't lived on the other end of the spectrum. Living on the edge, you can't help yourself from falling. I was a teenager once, but I was not as dramatic as my teenage friends. And when they became vicious with the people who would break up with them, I'm like, I don't dislike my teenage boyfriend. I talk about him. Yeah, I talk about what happened. I talk about cowards, because that's exactly what all those people were. Still, I love them. I'm not trying to shame them. I'm using the right words, like I did with my facade friend, as he's telling me, we want to not be mean. No, you want to be cowards and not have an authentic, honest conversation. So when you have two hands and 2 feet, and you got taught what integrity is and morality, and you don't want to lie, because why would I lie? That's why God keeps some of his children away from people. The other, and we're going to close it out. So with people right now, there are some who are going through that, which is that twin flame thing, but in a very different way, due to it having taken off, with a bunch of people also thinking it's fake. Not fake. However, you don't need to really make it into a big deal either. But the people who are not noticing that they're living limerence, and that they're actually continuing to suffer that which is every person wants at least one securely attached figure. That's our mammalian heritage, because we're weaker than the bear. And so there is an explanation that is technical, that doesn't make our loving relationships any less special. No, because your amygdala actually is already ruling you. By the way, mine rules me. I'm smiling because I am actually very well aware of what I'm intrigued by and what I will be completely curious about. Okay, so when someone lacks emotional depth, I'm not interested. Mental depth, not interested when they're lacking it. Okay, so when I'm meeting somebody who is on a roll with their stories from yesterday's news, okay, not fascinating. You haven't tickled my mind, you haven't tickled my heart. You've given me some stereotype generalization, you've given me nothing new that I haven't already heard of. And then you're going to give me the whole humans can't succeed, which is another bullshit story. So drag your little pain point around a little bit more, get that ball, go on your feet, and continue to drag it, like my other friends who continue to think that life is unfair and people are awful, and all these same lame ass sentences. That all is people who are, it's unfair, it's fair. Yeah, life has a lot of unknowns. It's not about fair, unfair. Is it unfair? It's always going to be potentially unfair if you keep using the word. How about you focus on making it into fair? How about you get proactive? So when some people say it's because there's an absence of healthcare that we have all the mental health stuff, no. Some people have access to it. Some people have a lot of moolah, like a lot of money, whatever the word is, and I see them throwing it away. I got one who had me promise to never leave their side. To this day, when I made that promise, I said, I ain't going to lie to you. Remember this, because one day you're going to be like, oh my God, Maria, stop. And I'll be like, you told me that you were cool with me being me, and I am me now. So there you go. But I don't think he's ever going to get rid of me. Because, you know, he's a sucker for friends. And that man, he's right now being gifted the opportunity to make some good choices. I don't know. The wealthiest thing you can build is mindset. Unknown, yes. Your inner and outer mindset. Growth, not critics. And so compassion with oneself, hugging. That's what we're here. We're here to support the ones who want to take what universe, God, and the world has to offer. We get to connect thanks to internet. We get to also continue talking about things. So when people commit to the dark sides of neuroplasticity, at a certain point, it'll be a, commitment that you will know. And it's not good or bad, it's just you won't actually have much in common. But that can happen, and then you can have small talk, and that's good. So we have small talk for good reasons. And the ones that tickle our fancy, on the other hand, we're going to continue to forgive like Jesus taught us, believe in ourselves, believe in humanity, and we know that the passion of Christ, that's right in that heart, with an open third eye and crown right here. When you remember where you come from, remembrance, it's because the frequency supports our memory of everything that we have gone through as a soul and body, providing us with valuable information and tools to flow gracefully with and in this life. But what you remember first is all of your child parts from this lifetime. Otherwise, you don't access all of that which is within that the same way. You can access everything all the time, but if you're not a divine masculine, which means the integrated brain, that's how Maria's going to bring it to you, supports our strong, focused, and active side, allowing it to express itself while helping us to bring our dreams and ideas into form with kindness and wisdom. That's Shiva, and that's the Purusha, pure consciousness. And so you're connected to that which is thinking and feeling clearly, divine feminine. You're your own empowered divine feminine. So the frequency supports our receptive, nurturing, and soft side, allowing it to express itself openly and helping us to connect to our intrinsic understanding of our connection to all creation. Now you're opened up to change, but you won't feel that you've changed. You'll feel that you are consistently expanding. But of course, I haven't changed from my 0-1-year-old to my 5-year-old, okay? So if you really have to, yes, Maria's not an immature teenager anymore. Change, our ability to gracefully dance with the forever changing nature of reality, both inward and outward, so that we can appreciate the sweet release of the old and the birth of the new. And so that's why AI is not a threat, technology is not a threat, communication. We continue to expand on that as emotionally intelligent, mentally intelligent people. It supports our ability to exchange information in many different forms. It reminds us to run every piece of information, both incoming and outgoing, through our heart, the center of our truth, to stay in the flow of source and balanced exchange. That's why empowerment, self-empowered, enlightened people will be back here at IHP, and we're building a community of funny bones. And the frequency of empowerment supports our ability to show up fully and completely, uniting us with others in the deep trust that we are all connected through the same source, which is true. And here's where we have soul time. Yay! It asks us to allow the possibility of a new reality to emerge, one that embraces the concept that while the corporal body is mortal, the soul is timeless, limitless, and infinite. So people who don't understand that perception and neuroception, if you don't have a body that you wield because you need first therapy, then that's where you first start. That's where the big transformation happens. At that point, if a person is ready, they can do this. So otherwise, they're going to say, how dare you? And you say, okay, they got Zen masters out there. They got all the ones who don't want the breakthrough energy that I'm talking to you about right now, okay? The breakthrough energy that comes from dissolving limiting consciousness beliefs, thoughts, and emotions, feelings is invigorating and full of the energy of the breath of life and love. Perception supports our natural curiosity, moving us beyond our comfort zone to find the edges of what we perceive as real and to take a good, hard, deep look at it. And on that note, let me read to you something that is going to be very amazing, if you allow me to keep you for one more minute. And wait for it. Is it here? Love. One moment. I have so many notes. Here it is. Let me count the ways that I love thee in a discerning, equanimous, conscious way. I added some words to it throughout the time, but throughout the years. But it begins with, let me count the ways that I love. The smiles you bring to my heart, the silence you fill with awe and splendor, the essence of life and love that you are, the magic that the mere expression of you holds, the embodiment of the infinite and unknown splendors of life that you bring to me each day. I love thee for that which our fusion creates. It is love and life in form, completely conscious of being, and awakened in every breath, thought, and action we take, both together and apart. Let me count the ways I love thee, in knowing that together we bring to life that which is deemed impossible to be experienced by mortal being, the experience of love and life in its utmost, unlimited, and infinite expression and potential. So, when you can see how your life is the most amazing love affair alongside all your loved ones and humanity, you will know I'm life, I'm love, I'm expanding consciousness, I'm infinite human, higher human potential. So, be yourself, people. And the simplest of things can brighten up our day, our ability to love with flaws and imperfections, unconditionally love, because that's what we all are. It is how you can have gratitude, bliss, abundance, and ever expanding love. So with that being said, I'm going to let you all go now. Thank you for joining us on this lovely full moon, and we'll be back with potentially some stories or potentially not. And in the meantime, join us here at HP to be yourself the smart way and to have emotional, mental intelligence fun with exercises that are for free, for paid, and for our future workshop, as I am going to get started with that one. Have a good one.